Rome's streets glowed under the late sun, shadows stretching between marble columns. Gaius Marcellus, a hardened centurion, walked with a heavy step. Fresh from the wars in Germania, he carried memories of comrades lost in foreign mud. A Senate summons rested in his tunic, marked urgent with a crimson seal. As he neared the Senate steps, he noticed a cloaked figure in red, watching him intently. Their gaze was piercing, unblinking, almost divine in judgment. Before Gaius could approach, the stranger melted into the crowd. The summons felt heavier now, as if it carried not only duty, but also an unseen warning.
Inside the Senate hall, marble echoed beneath his boots. The air smelled of wax and politics, heavy with the whispers of power. Senators in flowing togas eyed him with cautious interest. At the center stood Senator Lucius Varro, a man whose words could sway legions. Marcellus, Lucius began, Rome is at a precipice. The northern tribes rally under a new warlord. We require a commander who inspires both fear and loyalty. Gaius felt the weight of the offer. Leading such a campaign meant more glory, but also greater risk. Yet refusing the Senate could be as dangerous as any enemy abroad.
Lucius's eyes sharpened. But there is more. We suspect betrayal within our own ranks. Someone feeds the enemy our movements. The chamber seemed to grow colder. A commander's battlefield was dangerous enough, but fighting shadows within Rome itself was another matter. Gaius nodded slowly, understanding that the summons was not mere honor, it was a test. He accepted the command, knowing it would place him between swords and daggers, both foreign and Roman. Lucius dismissed him with a final warning: trust no one without proof. Outside, the crimson-cloaked figure appeared again, watching from an archway, vanishing before Gaius could pursue.
Preparations for departure consumed the next day. Soldiers trained in the Campus Martius, steel clashing under the morning sun. Armor was mended, rations packed, and messages sent to border garrisons. Among the men assigned to him was Marcus Falco, a young officer with sharp eyes and sharper wit. "Sir," Marcus said, "rumors speak of a ghost who follows you." Gaius paused, recalling the crimson figure. Not a ghost, but perhaps a warning. That night, as the campfires flickered, he felt unseen eyes upon him. Somewhere beyond the light, the watcher lingered, silent, patient, as if waiting for the perfect moment.
The march north began at dawn, the Tiber gleaming like molten gold. Villages passed quickly, some cheering, others closing shutters in fear. News of Rome's enemies had reached even the smallest farms. On the 5th day, they reached a burned-out settlement. Blackened beams jutted into the sky like broken teeth, and the stench of death clung to the air. Marcus reported no survivors, only footprints, some Roman. Gaius felt a chill. This was no barbarian raid alone. That night, he ordered double watch. Again, the crimson figure appeared at the camp's edge, watching the flames, before disappearing into the darkness without sound.
Snow fell as they entered the northern forests, muffling their footsteps. Scouts brought grim news. The enemy had gathered in the valley of Volturnus, fortified by stolen Roman arms. Gaius studied the terrain, knowing a frontal assault would be costly. He ordered Marcus to flank with cavalry at first light. That evening, Gaius wandered beyond the camp. The crimson figure stepped from the shadows at last. A woman, her face pale under the moonlight. "They will betray you," she whispered. Before he could demand more, an arrow hissed through the air. She vanished into the trees, leaving only footprints in the snow.
The attack came before dawn. Barbarian war cries shattered the morning stillness. Arrows rained down, striking shields and men alike. Gaius roared orders, rallying his soldiers into formation. Marcus's cavalry swept in from the flank, cutting through the enemy lines. Steel clashed, blood sprayed onto frost-hardened ground. Hours passed in brutal struggle before the tribes retreated into the forest. Victory was theirs, but at a high cost. Dozens of Romans lay still, their faces pale beneath crimson-stained snow. Gaius stood among them, gripping his sword tightly. Whoever betrayed them had guided the enemy to strike when they were most exposed. Trust was shrinking. In the aftermath, Marcus brought grim evidence, a Roman dagger found in an enemy captain's hand. The weapon bore the insignia of the Senate's guard. Gaius's thoughts turned to Lucius Varro. Could the Senate itself be complicit? That night, while the camp mourned, Gaius set a silent watch and sat by the fire, turning the dagger in his hand. Across the flames, the crimson woman appeared again. "You are not meant to win their wars," she said. "You are meant to be their scapegoat." Her words struck deep. Before he could respond, she was gone. Gaius wondered if he was chasing a phantom.
The march continued through bitter winds. Supplies grew thin, and morale began to falter. In the valley ahead, scouts reported another enemy stronghold. Gaius decided on a bold plan: infiltrate under the cover of night. Disguised in captured armor, he and Marcus slipped into the camp, moving between shadow and torchlight. Inside, they found stolen Roman banners and a sealed message bearing Lucius Varro's signature, instructing the enemy to delay battle until Roman forces were weakest. Gaius's chest tightened. The betrayal was no longer rumor. It was written in the Senate's own hand. Escape now meant more than survival. It meant justice.
They fled before dawn, chased by enemy patrols. Through snow and rock they ran, arrows hissing past. Marcus took a wound to the leg but pressed on. By midday, they reached their own camp, breathless and bleeding. Gaius gathered his officers, revealing the letter. Shock and anger rippled through them. Some urged retreat to Rome, others vengeance upon the tribes first. Gaius chose both: strike one final blow to the enemy, then return with proof of treachery. That night, he dreamed of the crimson woman standing on the Senate steps, holding laurel leaves dripping with blood. Choose wisely.
The final battle came under a gray sky. Gaius's forces moved with ruthless precision, driving the enemy into the frozen river. The ice cracked under weight and chaos, swallowing warriors whole. Marcus fought fiercely despite his injury, his sword a silver flash. By midday, the enemy lay shattered, their banners trampled into slush. But victory brought no celebration. Gaius's mind was fixed on Rome. The letter burned in his satchel, its truth more dangerous than any blade. He knew confronting the Senate meant challenging the most powerful men alive, men who could erase him from history with a single whisper.
The journey back to Rome was tense. Messengers were sent ahead, but no reply came. Villages they passed seemed colder, eyes following them with suspicion. On the seventh day, as the city's walls appeared on the horizon, Gaius saw the crimson figure once more, this time in full daylight. She stood by the road, face uncovered. "Do not enter through the gates," she warned. "They are waiting." Gaius halted the column, sending Marcus to scout ahead. Hours later, Marcus returned, pale. Senate guards filled the streets, their orders clear: arrest Gaius Marcellus for treason. The trap had been set long before his arrival.
With no safe entry, Gaius led his men to the Aventine Hill, where loyal veterans still held ground. From there, messages were sent to allies, but fear of the Senate's wrath silenced many. That night, the Crimson Woman came to him again. "I am Valeria," she revealed, "once a spy for Rome. They betrayed me too." Her knowledge of the Senate's schemes was vast. Together, they devised a plan, not to beg for justice, but to seize it. In 2 nights, during the festival of Saturnalia, the Senate would gather unguarded in celebration. It would be the moment to strike publicly.
Saturnalia brought chaos to Rome, streets alive with music, masks, and drunken revelry. Disguised among the celebrants, Gaius and his loyal men slipped into the Senate's hall. Torches burned low, shadows dancing on marble walls. Lucius Varro stood at the center, cup in hand, boasting of Rome's victory in the north. Gaius stepped forward, the stolen letter in his grasp. "Read it," he demanded, voice echoing through the chamber. Silence fell as the betrayal was laid bare. Senators shifted uneasily. Varro's smile faltered. Before he could speak, the crimson-cloaked Valeria emerged from the crowd, her voice cutting through the air like steel. Years later, songs were sung of Gaius Marcellus, the soldier who defied the Senate. Some painted him as a savior, others as a dangerous rebel. But the truth, as always, lay in between. Rome endured, as did her endless games of power and blood. On his final day, overlooking the same streets where his journey began, Gaius thought of the crimson-cloaked woman. Perhaps she had been sent by the gods, or perhaps she was simply another soul burned by Rome's fire. Either way, he understood her warning at last. Victory was fleeting, but the struggle